Hello, fellow Pilgrim Sojourners. We continue with part 2 of Thy Will Be Done on Earth as it is in heaven. The petitions that we should have in mind always as we go about our day, as we travel in this world. The last one we had said that Thy Will Be Done is the same as saying, I love you. One of the greatest lovers of God that the world has ever seen is Our Lady. And she was a very good example of that. She's the one that would say the fiat. She would say, Thy will be done. She would say, may it be done unto me. And even here in this window, you see the miracle at Cana. She said specifically there to everyone there, she says, do whatever he tells you. Meaning we should do whatever Christ tells us to do because that brings about our salvation and our happiness. But how do we know what is God's will in this world? God's will in heaven is very clear, but maybe His will on this earth where there's a lot of darkness, when there's a lot of doubt, where we don't know everything, what's going on in heaven. How do we know what is God's will? What helps that God sends our way? He sends us many helps, in fact. God speaks to us through nature, through the laws of nature, just by studying the creatures of the world, the beauty of the world. God speaks to us by sending us messengers, right, throughout history of salvation. Moses, the prophets, the scriptures, the 10 Commandments. He even sent us His only Son to become a man, to walk on the earth like us, become one of us in order to communicate the road to us. And so we can read that in the Gospels. Even Christ left us the church to accompany us as we go from day to day about things, to help us, the teaching and authority of the church. Christ gave us the Holy Spirit as a coach to inspire us in our hearts about what to do throughout every day. Christ has given us a conscience, a voice, we call it the voice of God speaking to us as we know what is right and what is wrong, almost like a GPS that's telling us where to go. All this, and even we have the examples of the saints to let us know, right, what is God's will, to live like that. And there is I like reading a lot of books and stories about Mount Everest and the Himalayas, the alpinists. There is a guy named Russell Bryce, and he is the most successful and most sought after Mount Everest expedition leader in history. In almost 2 decades of leading climbers up to the peak of the world's highest mountain, he has never had a client die. I don't know, maybe that has changed. Maybe there's been one or two, I can't remember. Russell can count more than a few friends among the 190 base camp graves of climbers who have died. But no grave contains the remains of climbers who were under his responsibility. Why has he been so successful? One of the reasons is that he directs the climbers from the base camp. He sends professional guides with his clients for the last part of the climb, but he remains below. He equips each climber with a high-powered radio and keeps in verbal communication with each. A little bit like what God is doing. He's sending us guides and messengers, radio, like our GPS system, like our conscience. He follows their progress with a state-of-the-art telescope. And he constantly checks the customized weather reports being sent via satellite to his laptop. These tactics enable him to keep close watch on climbers and conditions. This is the church teaching does for us. God can see the whole picture, right? Like this man. He knows what we are experiencing, the conditions in which we live, and what they will take us to find fulfillment and happiness as we go about this world. He sends His guidance through the infallible teaching of the church. Through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, the church is the radio that faithfully broadcasts God's voice. So, if we want to make it through this world, we need to know God's will, God's beautiful plan. We need to be attentive to it. We need to have the same attitude that Mary had. Do whatever he tells you. Because if we don't have that attitude and we're always afraid of God and not want to just do our own, there's going to be a lot of static and we're not going to be able to hear God's voice. So that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God has given us all these means to know his will. God bless you and see you next time.